The following are all accounts of Reddit users who decided to share their most bone-chilling experiences. Number 1. So, this happened about 2 years ago. Me and my friend decided to do some exploring. After a while, we found a place, a supposedly haunted tunnel. I decided to pack my camera in my bag in hopes that I would catch a ghost on camera. When we got there, we couldn't find the tunnel at first. Eventually, we found the entrance to the tunnel, and there was graffiti all along the entrance. I got my flashlight and my camera out of my bag. I turned my flashlight on and started to record. As we were walking into the tunnel, there was a gate on the floor. We thought that it was weird because we hadn't seen any fences yet. We were about halfway through when a sudden chill hit us. It felt like whenever you hit the drop on a roller coaster, and we started to hear a woman's groans, and it sounded like she was on fire. The groans were deep and terrifying. All of a sudden, the lady started to charge at us from nowhere. Her hair was jet black, and she had a deep grin on her face. Yet she was still groaning, and all of a sudden, her groaning changed to screaming as loud as she could. Her clothes were ripped and dirty. She charged at me and then she bit my hand. Some weird lumps formed on my hand and eventually they popped, but nevertheless my hands were burning up and it felt like they were on fire. No one else got bit by the lady. We started running out of the tunnel and we felt like she was still chasing us, but finally we got to the end and we jumped out of the tunnel and fell over against the wall. We went home and went to bed. In the morning, I felt really weird, and truthfully, sometimes I still see her in these weird visions I get. I still have some footage on my camera's SD card. I might decide to post them later. Number 2. I live in a very small town where everyone knows each other. It's surrounded by water, so there's little beaches all around the town. One night around 9 p.m. I decided to walk to a playground to watch the remainder of the sunset. The streets were empty, so I walked on the double yellow lines in the middle of the road the entire way to the park. Once I got there, it was already too dark to see where I was going, and I had missed the sunset by now, so all I could see were the green and red lights of boats speeding past just a few yards away. I sat on the swing alone, just looking out onto the water. Then I heard noises coming from my right, and it sounded like water splashing, and then the sound of something walking into the dry seagrass. There was a small beach below the swings, but there was a cement staircase in my way, so I couldn't see what made the noise. It was also too dark to see anyways. I heard movement in the grass again, like some animal was creeping towards me. I stayed on the swing and squinted my eyes to see if there was anything to see at all. And then I saw him. A quick reflection from a nearby house's backyard light partly illuminated his crouched silhouette in tall grass. I still sat on the swing while he looked at me as he tried to hide himself. All of a sudden my instincts kicked in and I hopped off the swing and started to run back home. I heard him move through the grass quickly and I heard him step up onto the cement staircase. He was catching up to me quick. I ran down a side street and tried to confuse him or hoped to just lose him entirely. My footsteps echoed off the buildings on either side of me and I heard another set of footsteps also echoing. He found me. I ran harder and my chest started burning with exhaustion, but I tried to keep pushing myself. I was thankful that my town had small side streets. I kept running through the side streets trying to lose him. At one point I passed the street where I lived on, but I knew it was too risky to stop, so I kept going. I ran until there were no more side roads. I ended up at the marina. My adrenaline was still high and I decided to hide in a small oystering boat that was docked at the corner of the marina. I sat down and peered out of the boat to see if the man had followed me the entire way. It was about another minute when I heard shuffling and some heavy breathing. I finally got a look at him when he passed under a streetlight that lit up a small parking lot. He was sweating from running after me, and he started to look down the street that led to a back road. He stood there for a minute, and during that minute I saw a large hunting knife strapped to his jeans. It was a leather sheath, but I knew if he was running after me with it, he didn't have good intentions. The man decided to go back towards the back road, and when I couldn't see him anymore, I got out of the boat and headed back home. I had no idea why he chased after me. I thought maybe he was doing something bad on the beach, and then I saw him. I didn't go back to that beach to see if there's anything suspicious from the night before. In fact, I haven't been back there for a while now. I decided that I wouldn't go far away from the house after dusk since that incident. After all, it is a small town, and he's probably still around. Number 3. So I was 13 when this happened. My father gave me a map of all the hunting spots on the property and marked the places where he had seen the most deer. I picked the furthest spot from the house because there had been a lot of deer marked there. And as I'm walking through the woods with my gun on my shoulder, I'm looking at the map, and I hear a twig snap to my left. I go a ways from the path and I crouch down and raise up my gun to see a young deer. I sit there with my gun raised for a little while and wait for it to pass. And then I decided to walk on and go to a spot where I knew there was a tree stand. And I sat there for a few hours, and it was starting to get dark, and I decided to pack the small stuff that I wouldn't need. And then I heard leaves crunching in the distance. I raised up my gun and scanned the bushes and trees, and then it stepped out a deer. I flipped the safety off, and I heard more leaves crunching behind me. I waited because it might be a bigger deer. Then the other deer started to run, but a big shadow below me then let out a loud, ear-piercing screech. I froze with fear as the thing caught the deer and started eating it, and then it turned towards me. It looked like a wolf, but it had no eyes, just a face, and it started running towards the tree I was in. I snapped back into reality and shot at it, and it changed directions and ran away. I packed up and ran all the way home. And since we moved out, I kept in touch with the family that moved in, and they said that their hunting dogs have kept disappearing at random when hunting, and when I decided to visit recently to the spot where I first saw that thing, I found a bunch of deer bones and skulls in a creek. And then when I was out behind the house, it was getting dark, and I could swear that I still heard that screech in the distance. I left and never came back.